those coaches because of the past claims history. And believe me, there is nothing which can really frighten you as an insurer, as when you're sitting in your sitting room and you're watching the news and you see a coach you're insuring which has gotten an accident and they are showing bodies, lying all over. Okay? Over and above paying the claims, you look at the people who have lost their lives. So insurance companies started rejecting them until these people put speed governors. They had to change and have like 2 people on the bus. The one who drives, when they reach Midway, if they are going to far places like Arua, they change the bus, the drivers. And then another who is fresh takes on. And then the accidents have reduced, I must say. Plus, of course, the government intervention. The other thing when we're talking about underwriting is classifying those selected or, to charge the appropriate premium for each risk. Just like I said, we charge each risk independently. We don't cluster, because the risks you're having your side are totally different from the risks I am having my side. Much as we might be in the same industry, we end up facing different risks. So at the end of the day, you're supposed to charge each risk independently for you to have a business which is accommodative, for you to have a business which is profitable, for you to have a business which is sustaining itself. Because you do not want to look for money elsewhere to settle the claims because you charged the rate which was low. Now, having said all that, the purpose of underwriting then becomes that you're going to spread the business and you're supposed to put this business into one basket, which we call a pool. And when we are underwriting and we're talking about spreading the risk, therefore, we are saying the few people who get an accident, the claims are supposed to be paid by the many people in that pool. For instance, we are going to confine for study purposes on motor in this area. There are so many types of vehicles. We have saloon vehicles, we have pickups, we have actually different types of pickups, we have station wagons, we have commuter taxis, we have rollies, and there are different types of rollies. We have trailers, we have coaches, and we have, again, different types of coaches. So when you talk about a pool, therefore, we are saying all private cars are put together after analyzing and assessing each client individually. That's a pool for private cars. And then you go on commercial and you'll say all light commercials are put in a pool itself. And then you'll go to rollies. Light commercials, you're talking about pickups and Dianas. Those commercial vehicles which take a smaller load. And then we'll look at the rollies, and then we'll look at the trailers. So when we talk about assessing equitable premiums, we are saying you're supposed to charge the premiums which fit into that pool. You cannot have a commuter taxi and you charge a rate of a private car. When you do that, it means you're putting this car in a pool where it does not belong. But also in private cars, and you should be very, very careful. We have private cars right now. We've registered our cars under the Uber or services or special taxis. The moment you do that, much as it's a private car, you've commercialized it. Much as it's a saloon car and takes you from your home and brings you to work, a mere fact that you get like a notification from Uber and they're asking you who is near, there is a client nearby, and you go, you drive that client to their destination and you come back. It's a commercial car, so it must not be under private vehicles. It has to be under commercial vehicles because it's bringing in an income on your part. The other thing which we have to look at when you talk about underwriting is the role of that person they call an underwriter. An underwriter is a person, right? And the role of this person basically is to assess and see whether we need that business, whether we can take up that business or not. And in insurance, the underwriter is a very, very important department. Underwriting departments can either run down an organization or they can make the profits of that organization be good. There is no middle way. Now, the first thing an underwriter must do in terms of the main function is to assess the risks on an individual basis and put it to a pool where it fits. Just like I explained before, if the pool is not good, definitely, if the business is not good, you must put it in a pool where it fits. If you put it in a pool where it does not fit, you're going to bring losses. Okay. 2, when they are going through the proposal form, their eyes must be wide open. Why? Because you need to look at the hazards which are going to affect that particular business. And when you talk about the hazards, we look at both the physical and the moral hazards. And we are all human beings. You can never know what someone is thinking about. So when you talk about the moral hazard, basically you're talking about the hazards which are related to someone's behavior, right? And when we talk about the moral hazard, we are talking about those things a person can do intentionally, right? And those particular things will bring in a loss. I'll give an example. We all have friends. And in the evening, our friends go out to chill. And when they go out to chill, someone takes more than 10 beers and maybe a small bottle of Black Label. Naturally, when that person now goes behind the wheel, right, and they drive, they are driving under the influence of alcohol. That's a moral hazard. So much as we need these businesses and we have a set of friends, we also have to be mindful of their behavior. We have friends When it comes to integrity, we know they are lacking. But they are our friends and we cannot chase them away. So when such a person comes and they want you to give them a money insurance cover, you think twice. Because if a person is not trustworthy, the moment you give a money cover, the next thing will be lodging in a claim which might not be a real claim. It's doctored, right? It's a fake one. Okay? So, with moral hazard, you do a self-assessment of your colleagues before you give them insurance. Likewise, moral hazard can be carelessness. You've had an accident, drive your car, rightly so. It's unfortunate, the accident is there, but you do not go ahead and leave a vehicle in the accident spot unattended to. Because the moment you do that, basically what you're saying is that it's insured, the insurer can suffer, right? But guess what? When you leave the vehicle which is unattended to on the road, it's a moral hazard. The insurance company will come, they will assess the accidental bit of it, and they might tell a client that you did not take reasonable precaution to safeguard the subject matter from getting another loss. You abandoned it. The other thing is physical hazard. And when we talk about the physical hazard, basically when you're assessing this risk, you have to look at the physical features. Things which can either increase or decrease the likelihood of the loss. Oftentimes we go to the bond. Someone has bought a very brand new car and we are excited, right? It's a brand new car. We insure them. You've not tested the brakes. You've not checked the tires very well to see whether, since it has been the bond for quite some time, the tires are worn out down. You've not checked the engine of the vehicle to see whether the oils are good. So this person drives it, and perhaps they are going to Masaka. In between Mpigi and Nkozi, an accident comes up. Okay? An accident comes up. What's the problem? Brakes failed. You as a person who goes down, you as the underwriter, you have a right to sit in this car and you see that it's really, really sound. Okay? Sound. Okay? We go to these buildings, look at the buildings, and we do not advise clients to insulate the hanging wires. At the end of the day, losses coming. Okay? People build on the lake shores. They build on the river banks. In the event of flooding, the places are flooding. Right? And these are things you've been seeing on social media from December last year. Beautiful places are flooding. They are not even, they are no longer habitable. But on a dry period, they are good. So when you look at this proposal form, the underwriter, among other things, they're supposed to look and assess the magnitude or the areas which might bring up physical or moral hazards. Having said that, they've analyzed it, and the underwriter has analyzed it, okay? And they've seen that the business is good. After analyzing and seeing that the business is good, the underwriter then will go ahead and accept the business and now look and advise the client on the next course of action. If they analyze and see that the business is not good, they will reject that business and you'll take it elsewhere. Or as a client, you'll end up doing a self-insurance on your property. Acceptance is done. You now have to sit down as an underwriter and you look at the terms which you are going to give to this particular client. Just like I said, different risks are judged differently. So you look at the terms you're going to give this client, you look at the conditions applicable for this client, and also you rate and advise on the premium, which premium is per risk. Just like I said, we charge premiums per risk. So after knowing that the client is good, you've agreed on the premium, the next thing is for you to ask the client to bring or to pay the premiums. Remember, we're into a cash and carry market. This business of giving credit left, right, and center is no more. The moment you do that and there is a loss which will result into a claim, it would mean the organization must pay. So as much as possible, we should refrain from giving people free cover because we are in the cash and carry market as per the law. And things which are backed up by laws, it means you just have to follow, or else you are bound for you to pay any loss which would come in, provided it's an insurable loss as per the policy documents. Having said that, we then look at the risk assessment and survey. Just like I said before when we were starting, risk assessment and surveys or a risk report is given when the business is complex, when the business is large, when the business is sensitive, and an underwriter cannot assess it. An underwriter cannot give lacks information or knowledge on the same. And you need to solicit the services of someone who is good in that discipline. You need to seek the services of someone who is going to be independent, and they're going to come and they will look at that business and they will assess it and they will advise you, right, on the areas of improvement. Oftentimes, these assessors and surveyors go to these big or large complexes, they assess the businesses, they advise on the way forward, and we do not follow it up as underwriters or as insurers. Again, that's wrong, right? When an assessor or a valuer advises you on a particular risk, just know they have this other eye looking in, which eye you do not have, which eye you do not possess. So to safeguard yourself, you just have to follow what they tell you because they have the information, they are seniors, and they exactly know what to do. this business of us booking businesses, because it's a big complex and we know everything is okay, even if there is a loss, it will not affect a bigger place, you cannot base that as an underwriter because you lack the information, you lack the knowledge. So look at the report which has been given to you by the assessor, look at the report which has been given to you by the surveyors, and analyze it and do exactly what's required of you. After looking at that, as an underwriter, and you followed it, then you come up with a rate. You come up with a rate which is going to be favorable to the organization, not the client, but the organization. After doing that, you then assess and determine whether you'll take up that business or you're not going to take up that business. And if you're not going to take up that business, you then advise the client that you're not going to take it up. And you give the reasons why you're not going to take it up. After giving the reasons, the client might say, okay, can you give me a period of 2 weeks, 2 months, and I put it into play, and then you come back and you assess that can be done. But again, you as the underwriter, you cannot assess it. Again, it means you're going to solicit the advice of the assessor again to come back and look at those areas which have been improved. Thereafter, you put a rate, you charge premiums, you put your terms and conditions, and you move on. Members, I'm apologizing. We are having an interference. It's raining heavily where I am. That's why you're feeling that noise. It's raining heavily this side. Now, we are talking about the risk assessment report. The risk assessment report, which is going to be given to you by the assessor, by the surveyor, should have a full description of the risks covered. Okay? Just like we said, we are looking at complex businesses. We are looking at large businesses, meaning we need a full description of the risk. And when they give you the full description of the risk, assuming it's a factory, and they will tell you this factory, it does plastics, it does the oil, it's into waste products, you know, they'll give you a list of the risks involved. They then also should advise you for all those risks, which particular losses can affect them. And after telling you which particular losses can affect them, then you know how to handle that particular risk. Most companies which are into plastics are doing soap, are doing oil, and they have byproducts and other things. But the risks which affect one are not the same as the one which affect the other. So at the end of that day, you need to have that. Number two, since we said it's a big business, therefore, they need to determine the sum insured or the limit of liability. Some people are into businesses, but they do not know the actual values of their businesses. But they've been businesses. They set it up, and every auditors come, right? But because the rule does not require them to do a review to assess how big their businesses are, right? They don't bring in the assessors or the valuers to carry out valuations of their businesses. Now, as insurers, we do not want to go into this business when we are blindfolded. That's why when we seek their services, they must as well advise us on the sum insured or limit of liability. Remember, on property, we have what we call sum insured, and when it comes to policies which are in a liability form, we call it a limit of liability. They should again advise you on the assessment of the level of risk. And when you talk about assessment of the level of risk, therefore, we are talking about the frequency and severity a particular loss can bring to that particular business. If you are talking about assessment of level of risk, we are talking about if it's a building, right? And there is a fire, how severe can it be? These days we are building houses and in between we are putting boards, right? Not bricks. So naturally, if there is a fire, it's a board, it's paper. It will just go through. If it's a fire and it's a building and we have bricks, it will affect to a greater magnitude. Others are building and they are putting sheets this side, bricks in the middle, and another sheet this side to prevent a fire from crossing over. So the report must explain to us all those aspects. Again, since we are talking about complex and large businesses, the assessment report should have what we call an MPL. MPL is the maximum probable loss which can affect a particular building or a particular business. I'll take you, I'll give an example of schools. Most schools, the buildings are scattered, okay? Now, if buildings are scattered, if one building is gutted by fire, naturally, because they are scattered, the fire will not affect the other block. They are far. So we need them to advise us on the maximum probable loss. Just like businesses these days, we are having companies with head offices in Kampala, and then we have branches in almost the towns in the country. If a risk hits, say, an office in Mbale, it will not affect this other risk which is in Kampala. So maximum probable loss therefore comes in. Why do we need maximum probable loss? As insurers, we need to know how much we should be ready to receive at once in terms of a claim. As insurers, we should know the maximum exposure which can hit us at a go. But also, we need also to be cognizant that the whole business cannot collapse. We need to flex, right? And be prudent in terms of rating the premium. The other thing the report should have is the recommendation on the loss prevention and risk improvement areas. And when you get this report submitted to you, right, you call in the assessor and you go through the report together. Remember, you're supposed to present this report to your client to be your prospect, someone who is going to become your insured. And for you to discuss and give an informed point of view, you need to have the facts with you. You cannot just come and like you give them information and you say, you know what, my client, my assessor gave me this report. Please do whatever is contained in this report and then I will insure you. They will ask you what's involved. What should I do? Where should I change? What period framework are we looking at, right? So you get this report, you got the client, you sit, and you look at the recommendations one by one, and you find solutions for all the recommendations where loss prevention and risk improvement areas are concerned. When you agree with the client, after looking at that report, you then go to the second level of rating and advising the client on the premium, and then you charge the premium and do a policy document. Having said that, we then look at the sum insured, or what we call the limit of liability. Now, when you talk about sum insured, it's the maximum amount the insurer can pay on a particular risk. It cannot go above that amount, but it can go below, because just like we said yesterday, general insurance, one of the characteristics is that partial claims are paid. Likewise, sum insured therefore becomes the maximum limit or maximum liability an insurance company must pay for a particular claim, for a particular business. And this sum insured is at times adjusted, at times is revised because of the depreciations or because of the appreciations. And if that's done, the insurer should be in the know. By then, that's why when you talk about renewals at the end of the year, you go back to the insured and you revise the sum insured. Because the business might have grown big and you need to revise the figures, or depreciate it and the figures go down. So when we talk about the sum insured, we should be mindful about the market values of that particular business, of that particular subject matter of insurance which we are having. More often times, we have clients, especially those who are going to the bank, because they are going to get money and they need a lot of money. They bring their subject matter, for instance, a vehicle of 50 million, and this person will say, don't worry, I want to insure it for 20 million. And when they insure it for 20 million, if there is a loss, just know the loss is going to affect the client. Unfortunately, at that particular time, the client will not be in a position of giving a listening ear, because they would have suffered a loss and they would like you to pay the entire amount. So as much as possible, we should make it a point that the marketing value and the sum insured speak the same language. The marketing value and the sum insured are in line, right? Not so far apart. If the sum insured is 20 million and the market value is 50 million, just know that discrepancy is so huge in the event of a claim, it's going to bring issues because the insurance company will have to use what we call the average. And when we talk about the average, therefore, we are talking about the insurance company adjusting the claim to fit in the premiums paid by that client. Okay. So, if you pay the premiums for 20 million and you have a loss of and your sum insured is 50 million, it means 30 million you did or you carried out what we call a self-insurance or a retention of your business by yourself. So at the end of that day, you lose out. The other thing which we have to know is that when it comes to classes which have the legal aspect, right? We do not use sum insured. We use maximum or limit of liability. Classes like workmen compensation, we look at limits of liability. Public liability, product liability, professional indemnity, all those are liability policies because the sum are not insured, but rather limits are, you discuss about limits, not sums insured. And then the sum insured, when we're talking about a sum insured, we also have to be mindful of the limit of indemnity per accident or per occurrence. For instance, if you're talking about a building, and this building has a public liability cover in place, and the public policy limit is, say, 500 million. There is no way you're going to pay 500 million to one person, but rather you break it into sections and you say, my aggregate limit of liability is 500 million. By aggregate, we mean if we have so many claims which can happen at the same time, maximum limit is 500 million. But if it hits only one person, one event, you can say 20 million. If it hits one person, you can even say 5 million. So the 500 therefore becomes the amount of limit per year. And then you keep dropping it as per the mode of business you are in. And the clientele who come to your organization. Okay? Are you together? I need a yes. Unmute and are you together?
Yes.
This is Brenda.
All right, Brenda. Are we following?
Yes.
Okay. Then, when we talk about the limit, we have to relate the limits of liability on the business a person is undergoing or undercarrying. In most cases, you might find a client who will come and put a limit of liability which is high, huge, or a sum insured which is huge, right? And when you look at the business they are into, plus the amount they've attached it to, it raises quite a number of question marks. Don't just rush and issue a cover. Just to know at times there is an aspect of moral hazard, or the person does not know their business that well, so they are just asking for covers. So then it becomes an important part for you, the insured, the insurer, to advise the insured on the next course and advise them about the limits, which are a true reflection. You do not want to have claims and then you start arguing with the client when a claim has occurred. When you argue with the client, when a claim has occurred, those are some of the areas where insurers get negative dots and dents. Having looked at the sum insured, I would request that I give you 5 minutes, 3 minutes to get a paper and a pen and a calculator. You can even use your phones, and then you do some calculations. Have you got them? Okay. Now I'm presuming you have the pen and you have the paper. Now, just like we've talked about the sum insured, right? Just like we've talked about the sum insured, in this particular scenario, we are saying the sum insured for a particular property was 20 million. That's the value the insured declared to the insurance company. And the insurance company went ahead and issued a policy based on 20 million. In between, there was a loss. And the actual or the real value of that particular property was not 20 million, but rather 35 million. So taking you back to what we said, the law of average, therefore, we'll have a computation where we'll do the sum insured over the market value times 100. Now, when we do that, we are trying to harmonize the whole thing, and we are trying to know how much the insured is supposed to retain on self-insurance, and we are supposed to know how much the insurance company is supposed to pay or to retain. And this particular scenario, we are saying out of this, 57% was insured. Okay? So for all the claims which could happen in this particular scenario, the insurance company will only pay 57%. And the client retains 45% in terms of self-insurance. Why? Because he undervalued and underinsured his property. So if we have a claim of 10 million, therefore, the insurance company will go ahead and settle a claim at 5.7 less excesses and depreciations. We'll discuss that at a later date. And then the client will have to meet 4.3. Dear participants, if you are the client and someone says out of 10 million, I'm going to give you 5.7% less excess or depreciation, you will not be happy at all. That's why I caution you to always advise clients to use the correct values. And they will pay a little bit money. Additional premium will be very little, but at least the whole package will be insured. I'll need you to calculate for me this, members, and when you're done with this calculation, put up your hand and you give us the answer. Calculate that and you give me the answer, please. I'm waiting for a hand up. Which percentage are we looking at? Yes, Matthew, unmute yourself.
30%.
30% on what?
Property sum insured.
Yes, who pays 30% and who pays 70%?
The insurer will pay 30%.
Very good. The insurer is going to pay 30%. Why do you say the insurer is going to pay 30%, Matthew?
Because the insured undervalued his property.
By how much?
By 70%.
In terms of shillings amount?
Yes, please.
In terms of amounts, how much was it?
6 million shillings. Or in terms,
Yes.
it was the property sum insured was 6 million shillings.
And he underinsured by how much?
By 14 million.
All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay.
Let's carry on. Now, as much as possible, we need to be sure that our clients get right the sum insured. And actually, if a client insists that they are comfortable with the amount of sum insured they've given you, make sure that they sign an undertaking, and in that undertaking clearly indicate that they've underinsured, and in the case of any loss, in the case of any claim, they are going to meet that percentage. And if possible, go ahead and put those percentages in the undertaking which you write and make them sign, and you also sign. And even if possible, you put it at the back of their policy document for them to know that in the event of any claim, they have a bit retention which was carried out. Having said that, therefore, we go to the insurance premiums. Members, we've looked at an underwriter, the roles of the underwriter. We've looked at what's underwriting. We've looked at the sum insured, and now we are going to look at the premiums. Now, premiums, insurance premium is the amount of money the insurance company charges to provide cover to a particular insured. And remember, this amount of money is going to be put in a general pool. And in that general pool, where that money is going to be put, must be a pool for that particular class of insurance and that particular category. Just like what we discussed in our example of motor, where private cars are put aside, private which are doing Uber or commercial are also put aside. They are not combined because the risks are totally different. Now, when you talk about insurance premium, okay, our underwriter, remember under the rules of the underwriting, that underwriter of ours must ensure to see that the premiums which are paid are calculated and they are suitable for that particular risk. Okay. For instance, if you're insuring a church, if you're insuring a mosque, if you're insuring a theater hall, which is just a hall which is just open, okay, the premium will be lower than the premium you're going to charge for big business where you have oil, soap, sugar, rice, biscuits, you know, those things which can fuel the fire. So the underwriter must make it a point that the premium which are charged are suitable for that particular loss. And if the premiums are charged, my participants, ensure that it's paid. You don't charge and you stop at that. We are in the cash and carry market, and I'll keep saying that word for you to really understand it and work on it. Businesses these days which are counted are those businesses where premiums are paid. Businesses where premium is not settled, we do not count them anymore because we are not sure whether we are going to get that money. 2, when we are charging the premiums, we need to charge premiums which are a true representation of that common pool where we are going to put or place that business. And when we talk about a common pool, we are talking about that particular basket which houses all those particular, so many clients, right? So many clients, and they are put in one pool or one account for that matter. And for claims which will come out or which will be lodged in for that particular pool, those so many clients who were wrapped up and put together are going to pay for these few people who have gotten claims. That's how insurance operates. That's how important we should pay or we should calculate the suitable, equitable premiums. The other thing which we have to look at is the contribution of that part of the premium being fair for that particular pool, and it must reflect the degree of the clients in that particular pool. We have commuter taxis, right? And we have taxis which are now ferrying students, school buses, kind of, in terms of taxis. Now, for commuter taxi, Kampala, Masaka, Kampala, Mbarara, Kampala, Mbale, the risk is so high than this school minibus, which ferry students in the radius of, say, 15 kilometers, right? It's in the radius of 15 kilometers, circling, dropping kids. They cannot not even erase them because the houses where they are dropping these kids are within, they are near each other. So they will not be, the speed limit is going to be low, the distance is low, right? Therefore, when you're charging the premium, it's supposed to be lower. But when it comes to those going up country, or even if they're not going up country, they're going into Ginger, therefore, time comes where this person just speeds, it's like you feel the vehicle is not on the ground, it's up there. The speed at which they cruise is high. Therefore, since the distance is long, the speed is high, your premium is supposed to be high. That's the level of contribution we are talking about. That's the level of fairness we are talking about. So when you're computing your premiums, the three factors you must look at is premium should be suitable or equitable. That's one. Two, the premium must represent that particular pool you're putting it in. And three, premium contributions must be fair across the board. Don't segregate. We have minimum rates of 4% for private cars. Don't bring in 3% because it's your relative. No. If the minimum is 4%, use 4% and don't drop. In terms of premium calculations, again, after analyzing the risks, after analyzing the previous claims, right? You then come and look at a rate, and then that rate is put or is applied on the sum insured or on the limit of liability, and then you will get what we call a premium. And this is premium as in the initial premium. And we are in the tariffed market. I don't know whether most of you have gotten a chance to look at the tariff as per IRA, but our market now is tariffed, meaning it's regulated. And when the market is regulated, it means you're given the minimums, the baseline, and you cannot drop below the baseline, much as I told you last time that we discussed some of the areas which can lead us to drop. But we have a baseline. And that baseline is supposed to be followed. So when you follow the baseline, in terms of premium computation, you have to look at that particular class of insurance. And then you compute the premiums based on that. If we take a class of, say, fire, the rate of on that minimum premium rates, it ranges from a 0.2 to almost 5%. So it's now you to look at your risk and you judge it and you page it where it's supposed to fit. Paging it where it's supposed to fit means looking at it, analyzing it, you assess it, and then you advise on the rate. Just like I said, halls and religious places, there is nothing, right? Nothing. Apart from the chairs and the mats, there is nothing, right? So the rate is down to 0.2. But when you go to one of the any shop in Chikubo or any supermarket for that matter and you want to insure it, you look at the variety of items they have, right? And the rate is totally different. It's a 0.5, 0.7, depending on the catalysts which are there. If you're to give a fire policy to a petrol station or a factory which is dealing in 2 oils, we know those are lubricants, we know those are fire catalysts. The rate is supposed to be different because the level of the hazard or the level of the risk is high up. And since the level of the risk is high up, therefore, we are supposed to be mindful, we are supposed to charge the premium which reflects that risk. That's why I employ you to go and you get the minimum rates chart and you look at it class by class. Tomorrow is one of the things we will look at. You'll be taking me through, not me. You'll be taking me through what you've seen, and then you'll be advising your fellow colleagues on how to apply it and the reason why. Guys, that's an assignment I'm giving you. And if I forget, please remind me that Hajati, you told us ABCD. Now, these are our answers. Now, premium calculation, just like I said, we apply a rate on the sum insured to get the basic premiums. However, there are other charges which are applied, which are added on the premiums. And these charges which are added on the premiums also affect the premium in terms of a client paying money. Yesterday I asked you how long I've been in the industry. I got one person saying 2 years, but there is one who said 1 month. So for me, I'm looking at my participants ranging between 1 month and 2 years. For that one of 1 month, there is what we call a stamp duty. For those who have been in the industry for quite some time, you know what stamp duty is. And a stamp duty is a government tax which came into play by an act of parliament, meaning it's a law. And that law demands that all the financial instruments which are issued out by an insurance company must attract a stamp duty. And stamp duty amount is 35,000 across the board. Whether someone is booking premium of 900 million and the other is booking business of 23,000, stamp duty is flat, 35,000, unless you have many vehicles. When you're talking about the vehicles, each vehicle attracts its own stamp duty because we have to give them certificates of insurance. And a certificate of insurance will attract, each attracts a stamp duty. So now, every quarter, the insurance companies are supposed to give to remit the stamp duty to URA plus the businesses where that money has come from. You indicate maybe 100 clients. 100 clients times 35,000, you get your total and you give in that stamp duty. At a certain time T, when you are a Uganda Revenue Authority guys come to inspect your offices, they'll have now to match what you've remitted vis-a-vis what's on the ground. The other charge, which is part of the premium, much as is not anywhere related to the insurance company in terms of holding it, is the training levy. On each and every policy, there is a charge of 0.5%, which amount goes to training the public, which amount goes to sensitizing the public, which amount goes to concessions given to insurance companies in training their employees, which amount goes to workshops and seminars which are free and we just come to attend. Now, in most cases, you're going to have issues where people are going to tell you, but I've never been trained. Question is, have they ever seen people on TV and radio talking about insurance? Yes. That's one way of sensitizing. And when the people go to the television and the radios to talk about insurance, we do not get free air. We pay money. Again, training levy, to make it, to concretize it, it's also a law, and it was also passed by the parliament. The revised insurance law, insurance contract, the revised insurance act handles training levy. This amount is given, it is sent to IRA, is sent to you, the insurance college, and that account is governed by the two bodies. If we did not have the training levy in place, each paper you're doing now, you'll be paying perhaps 900,000 per paper, perhaps 900,000. But this money also is used to to give you a rebate. Okay, so for each policy we charge a training levy, which is a 0.5%. The other thing which comes in again is the sticker fee. My participants, please note, sticker fee is only and only charged on vehicles. It's charged on motorcycles. However, because insurance companies go to the insurance association and they buy the stickers, that cost is passed on to the client to buy that sticker, because insurance companies use their money to buy the stickers in advance, and which money is supposed to be refunded. Assuming you make a sticker and you do not give it to a client, and all the 3 copies are still in your possession, maybe you made a mistake, maybe the client did not take it, that sticker is supposed to be sent back to Uganda Insurers Association. You should not remain with it. The other thing is value added tax, which is VAT. And we all know that VAT is 18% of training levy, sticker fee, and the initial premiums. When you add the three, you then get your 18%. We have issues with the clients complaining about VAT. And in most cases, clients say it's a double tax. It's not a double tax because when you look at the value added tax, this person is just paying taxes in advance. When they lodge in their returns, the value added tax, which was paid to the insurance company, is then returned to them. Their taxes are adjusted and that amount is removed, right? So 18% is huge. And in most cases, clients do complain. But when they are complaining, please and please take them slow, tell them it's a payment to URA in advance, which amount they will get when they submit their returns. Make them understand that this is not insurance money. Make them understand we are just collecting money on behalf of URA, in behalf of the government, because all insurance companies are URA tax collectors, tax agents. And if you do not charge VAT from a client, if you do not charge stamp duty from a client, it means your organization must pay those amounts on behalf of a client. And believe me, no service provider will allow that to happen. They will end up telling you, go back to the client and ask for that money, or you pay it. And again, it won't be fair to you to pay it, and it will reflect badly, poor advertisement, negative perception to your organization if you go back and you tell a client, you know what, I forgot to charge VAT and stamp duty. Now, on the amount of money you paid me last time, you have to add so much. Believe me, the client will tell you, are you for real? What happened? Do you know what you are doing? Am I safe with that company? There will be quite a number of negative vibes coming in. So let's, as much as possible, try to do our jobs and do them so well that at the end of that day, we provide services which are good. We provide services which will not bring any negative connotation to us. Are you together? Members, are you together?
Yes.
Yes. All right. At this particular point, I am going to stop here and I pause for questions from what we've covered today. If you have any question, if you have any area where you want any clarification, please put up your hand and we iron it out. And tomorrow, please come with pieces of paper, calculators, and pens. For today, kindly ask any questions in regards to what we've discussed today. Are we together? Do you have any questions? Do we have any areas where you want any clarification? Please unmute yourself and ask. Should I then say you've understood everything? My class, are we together? Sulaiman,
Yes, Hajat.
I would like to stop here.
Okay.
I do not want to go into calculation this afternoon
Okay.
and putting into consideration that our participants are not that many
Okay.
and calculations is an icon in insurance.
Okay. Okay, Hajat. Okay, Mariam.
All right. I hand over the mic to you.
Okay. Thank you, Hajat, for that good presentation. Our dear participants, just in case you have any question, please you can send them through the chat room, or you can raise your hand. It can be a comment. That's good. Yes, Evelyn.
Yeah, the presentation has been good.
Okay.
And with me, I have no question.
All right. Okay. Shama, are you there? Yes, Shama.
The points have been understood. No question.
Ah, okay. Daphne.
If we had some dates.
Yes, Daphne. Please unmute. Okay, now our dear participants, to get the reading materials, I sent you links, Google links on your email. Kindly accept those Google links. That is the only way how you can access our materials. Accept the Google link, and then it will take you direct to our recorded videos. It will take you direct to our slides and then the write-up. Kindly access the Google Classroom links that I sent on your emails. That is the only way how you can access the materials. The materials are ready, they're uploaded, just waiting for you. If there is no any question, I think let me wish you a good evening. Once again, thank you, Mariam, for the wonderful presentation. Our dear participants, we meet tomorrow. Fundamentals of insurance, very early in the morning. Kindly keep time. We shall also have general insurance. Kindly refer to your timetable. Kindly load enough bundles such that you can stay in class. I can see members, we started with around 11 participants, but of course we ended with like 5 or 6. And I can say it could be because of internet, it could be bundles, so kindly load enough data such that you can stay online and enjoy all our classes. Thank you so much. We meet tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.